Yeah, so I'm Phangisa Matsebula. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa, originally from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I am 33, going on 34. And yeah, that's about me.
Fantastic. And what do you do for work, Phangisa?
So I'm in ethics and compliance for AB InBev Africa. And I've been with the company now a total of 8 years. And yeah, I really enjoy what I do. I think mostly the culture of the company, which has helped me grow in so many ways, and also in this, in ways that have brought me directly to, this point today, having this conversation with you, and I'm happy to be able to share a bit of my story. I think it's a self-discovery as well.
Yes.
As I'm going, I think really discovering that places where I thought I had boundaries in terms of or walls that I would not be able to surpass, particularly when it came to numbers and maths. A mixture of things that has happened in the company, my self-development, and the amazing Dyscalculia.me website as well, that sort of brought me then to this moment.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so if we think about what would you say led you to believe that you may have dyscalculia, and to get you researching in the first place?
So if I take a look back, with the benefit of hindsight, I think starting from primary school, I particularly remember, going to my grade 1 class at the time. I remember 2 months, my mom outside, waving by. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be home all day.
Yeah.
And I also then remember the maths workbooks we got, these sort of small red maths books. And what I noticed looking back, and not necessarily at that time, but my peers on my table, we'd sit maybe four each. And my peers were sort of getting it. And I was like, what is this? I'd sort of soldier through it, but I wasn't grasping it. Then, fast forward to high school as well, really struggling with maths. I had a lot of access to tutors, a lot of access to, extra mural kind of Kumon maths, at the time. But it wasn't, it helped, but it wasn't doing the things. Then university, my first year was a disaster. It was an absolute, disaster. And that at that time, I think I then really stood still. I'm like, no, but there's an issue here. I need to describe to someone this issue I'm having, and maybe they can help me, because at that time I didn't even know that this sort of diagnosis, was there.
Yes.
So, I spoke to our family doctor, and we had quite the conversation, and noted that it would seem I'm presenting as dyslexic. And then as part of that, it was to be able to write my exams via computer, because the content I was understanding very well, but when it came to then writing it and putting it down on paper, it was coming out totally different. My marks sort of shocked me. So sort of all these things then led me to then speak to someone and say, look, I've been struggling with this for a long time, and it sort of felt relief when it was described back to me. So I done the test with an occupational therapist,
How old
You
were you
know,
when you were getting this testing done? Sorry, if you don't mind me asking.
sure. I was so my I think that was about 1920, somewhere there.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
that was quite, that was
Quite
quite
late on in your education.
late.
Yeah.
And in fact, my maths, I had to drop maths in grade 11, so just 1 year before matriculating, and then replace it with other subjects like biology, which I really got and enjoyed.
Mhm.
So I could actually pass, and get through again, sort of thinking my way. This is kind of the circumstance I find my way in. How can I triage it to pass
Mhm.
so I could get on to the next steps?
Yeah.
So I sort of dropped maths then, and in my mind, I was like, oh, I never have to worry about this again. I just don't have to worry about maths. I've left it in
I've
high
dodged
school.
it,
Goodbye.
dodged the bullet. Yeah,
Only to
yeah,
find
yeah.
that's absolutely not how it works. So really grateful for my university, UNISA, University of South Africa.
Mhm.
They had their units there that was well versed, in helping individuals dyslexia and dyscalculia,
Oh,
to give
okay.
you the tools that you need, right? So, for example, the typing. That's where I first started typing. They even had others, you could record your assignments and then they'll transcribe it for you. So,
Oh, wow,
there were all
fantastic.
sorts
So that
of,
was offered to you
um,
during university. So you at
yeah, so that
university,
was
they
from my
knew about.
second year.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
when you
So,
talk about your education in South Africa, it sounds so much
hmm
better than the education people get in the UK or in Australia.
hmm
Like they
hmm
sound like when you say that your family doctor is the one who picks up on your dyslexia, I'm like, well, my family doctor would never do anything like that. And then when you talk
ah,
about
ah,
too that you're they were testing you even at 19 and 20, but you were also allowed to drop maths and kind of still pass high school. Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
well, that
correct,
you see, you
correct.
can't pass high school without maths in Australia or the UK. You
Mm,
have to do maths,
mm.
which is not, I don't agree with it. I think that's a terrible idea. But it sounds like in South Africa they 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 allow you to pass, which is
Yeah,
great.
I think my timing was also good, so to
Yeah.
speak, in that it was before they introduced what they called Maths Core and
Mm-hmm,
Maths Lit,
mm-hmm,
which, we just had Maths, which was sort of your higher grade Maths, and that was it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you didn't have your options for a different kind of
For an easier
maths.
Mm-hmm,
Yes,
mm-hmm,
yes, exactly
mm-hmm.
that. So I was very fortunate to be able to do that, and it wasn't ideal for me, but I had to do what I had to do at that time to get
Mm-hmm.
to
Okay, so you
pass
did do
to a
basic
level
maths.
that.
You did basic maths and you could pass basic math in
So
high school.
yeah, well, look, it wasn't basic maths. It was higher grade maths.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
was just that higher standard. They didn't have at that time the basic and the higher. They just
Okay.
had that higher maths.
Higher.
So
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
by the time I was getting to the grade 10, I was
Mhm,
like, I'm not getting this. My maths
mm.
teachers, the classic what's going on
Yeah, you're not
thing, at the
concentrating. Yeah, you're not doing your
exactly.
homework. Yeah,
Exactly. So I had
yeah.
to so I had to drop it in order to get through. So luckily, as I was saying, at university, I was able then to type. I got my first undergrad. I then went to a different university, Wits, or University of the Witwatersrand,
Mm-hmm.
where also they had the same facilities. I also had to bring my OT report, but then I also had to do the tests with their independent in-house occupational therapists,
Oh,
who
fantastic.
also confirmed. So I was
Yeah,
able then to do my BCom honors after
yeah.
that, again, because it wasn't that I wasn't getting the content. I'd listen, especially with my postgrad. I'd listen to what the professors and everyone is saying. I would get it, you sort of discuss in class, so I'm making sure I'm getting the content, learned reading methods where when I read something, I might be quiet, but in my head, it's like there's a loudspeaker that's sort of reading it back to me at the same time. So then, is this making sense as you're reading it? Or as you're hearing it? And if it doesn't make sense when I hear it, I read it again. So, those are the kind of things,
Were
then
you
got
taught
my
to do that
honors.
already by that? Were you taught to do that by that stage?
I taught myself.
You taught yourself.
Myself.
Fantastic.
I taught myself that
That's what worked for you.
And that's what works for me. I think you find ways. You just, I can't
suppose
describe it.
if
You
you
just
want
find
it enough,
ways.
right? If you want it enough, then you find a way. And I think, that comes across quite strongly with you, that, you're a go-getter and you don't let things really get in your way, which is fantastic. And I think maybe because you were practiced from quite a young age, because you recognize that, hey, I'm not getting it. Everyone else is getting it, but I'm not. I need to find out how to get it, which is a great quality about you, Phangisa, because I think lots of people will say, well, I just can't do it, so I'm not doing it. Whereas you're like, well, I can't do it, but I know I have to do it, so I'm going to find a way to do it, and I think that's the attitude you really need, with everything in life, right? So okay, so that's fantastic. So you managed to get your BCom honors, and then you kind of graduate, and then you get into the workforce.
So then I graduated then, and then at that time, I was doing an internship, at Land Bank whilst I was doing my honors. I think my first year of my honors, and then the second year of my honors, I got into South African Breweries SAB, the company I'm in now, which then merged with with AB InBev, but. So so I got my honors, and then after that I was like, wow, I'm enjoying this and I want to continue. So I then enrolled for my master's part-time, also at Wits University. And I was able then to do a large body of research and learn all sorts of things. And you learn. There was one class I had to go into, and I thought, oh my goodness, here we go again with maths. I've sort of hit a brick wall, clearly.
Yes.
There was a quantitative methodology class that we had to do. Now, and I was part-time. I remember walking into that class after work in the evening, and I just saw on this blackboard this huge financial model just written out there.
Like a nightmare.
And honestly, I just froze. But again, I was like, okay, I've come this far. I need to just figure out. I need to find my way. I need to figure it out. And again, our teachers are so amazing. Our educators are so amazing. So I remember Renee Kromenhoek, very passionate, about numbers, and very passionate about quantitative, and and that I got the attention I needed from her to really explain what is that number, when if that number is high. So it was kind of like, okay, if I get the number and it's high, does that mean good? Or if it's lower, does that mean good? So it was again trying to figure it out, in that kind of way,
the right
learning
questions,
what
right?
the methodology exactly
asking the right
asking the question. And what the methodology is for there. And I got through it, and I got very good marks, 71%. I was very proud of that.
Wow.
And then after that, I got nominated by the business to do a postgraduate diploma. So I done a postgraduate diploma at the business school there. So that was also another qualification I was able to do. And then in the next sort of 10-year window or 9-year window now, I need to complete my PhD. That's my goal.
That's your next hurdle.
Mm.
That's so wonderful. And are you finding that maths is once again coming up as a thing, or do you think you got this? You kind of jumped so many hurdles now that it's just really not much of a challenge.
So maths came up in a big way. I got nominated by the business, to do this leadership development program, essentially grooming. And one of the things that had to be done was a psychometric test. And it was like nothing I've experienced, but, and it tests
Right.
all sorts of things. And
Yes.
one of the outcomes of there was that my numeric reasoning was very weak.
Right.
And then with that, with that feedback, as part of closing those gaps, because I sort of need to close those gaps so I can move on to the next stage or the next hurdles, as it were. I was like, okay, I clearly am in a situation now that I cannot escape maths. I'm getting into a field of my career that I will need to deal with maths and numbers to an extent, and I can't have the anxiety of that hanging over me. So it was again thinking, okay, I have anxiety with maths. How do I get rid of those anxieties? And what things do I need to do? So I noted to the company that, I do have dyslexia. These are the challenges I have. And the response was amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing, absolutely encouraging. Long story short, with the team that's doing the evaluations for us, I'm going to go through stage by stage, the process of looking at a business case study, and then through that business case study, as a COO, basically you're given a task as a COO, you get all sorts of issues that you then have to deal with. You have to deal with ratios, you have to deal with a turnover and profit and all those.
Yeah.
So I went online and I started searching, and I started watching some YouTube videos, Richard Branson talking about dyslexic thinking. There was an MIT professor, who's doing the most extraordinary things as a dyslexic with numbers and quantitative. It then started to dawn on me, wow, okay, so it seems there's something possible here. And I then came past your website, the Dyscalculia, and I literally told myself that whatever level I'll start at, I will start at. And I need to break everything down to the very start, and then I'll build up then, from there. So I got then onto the table fables, and it was, again, I sort of written down things that I have to do in order to make sure that I close the maths gap. So one of them was like the table fables. What are your times tables? What are your, your divisions, your addition, subtraction, all of that. But really understanding it, not just you sort of hear and memorize, to sort of get through, but understand the technical way of doing it.
For sure.
Exactly.
Like what multiplication means, what division means. Yes, what addition means, subtraction.
Exactly.
And
I
so
never had that explained.
Table fables helpful though, because I agree with you. I think it's important to understand what the symbols represent, what multiplication means, and all the rest. But with table fables as well, when you're a neurotypical kid at school, they teach you the tables, either auditorily, you're listening, you're repeating. So table fables, sure. And I think some teachers didn't like that about table fables. It was like, well, you're not really teaching kids about multiplication or division. You're just giving them the numbers. But our thought was, well, sure. And we are going to create little videos that explain in a dyscalculic way what multiplication is, what division is. That's in time going to come. But getting the numbers into their head, like you probably have now after using table fables, where someone can just say 8 times 8 and you just go 64 because you remember the story. Is that beneficial to you, or did you find it, how did you find that?
So I think it plays a very powerful role. And if I take all of my context into account, that table fables for me was the first step, because although in its simplicity, it may not give you the technical side of the numbers, the maths, but it plays, firstly, it takes away the anxiety of the numbers, because the minute you start to, it sounds so simple, but the minute you start to know your times tables like that, and that you're able to identify some sort of it's almost like a pattern to it, and how the character, understanding the character's nature and how then it interacts with others, it firstly takes away that maths anxiety, and I think that's the first part. And then from there you start to sprout belief that, okay, so I've now gotten this far, maybe I can then start to push a bit more. So for example, I'll just show you here. So I done the table fables numbers. I don't know if that's clear.
Oh yeah, maybe hold
Not
it back
quite
a little
clear.
bit. Oh yes, near your face.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, essentially, I would draw out each one, and then, for example, the particle 6. I would have the 6 I draw out, and then I have the pom-poms, the 4 pom-poms, and the 2. So you're able to remember. So you're starting with numbers. You may think you are just reciting a fable, but that's how you're starting with numbers. Then after that, again on the internet, I found a really amazing lady, Noel Gray. She is dyslexic as well, and she had her story on her page that at 35, as a dyslexic, that's when only she learned numbers, and now she's a maths teacher. And it's like, yeah, dyslexic and you're a maths teacher. So I reached out to her, and then with the confidence of the table fables, I then started to learn the technical side of the numbers and the math. So your unit 10s, your hundreds, and so on. You get to learn your multiplications, your divisions. And what I see there, although I have the technical side, I still refer to the table fables if I'm doing my long divisions, or if I am doing my long multiplications or any multiplication. You actually
do refer to it.
You do refer to it, so you refer to both. And I think that's the trick, is that you will have the sort of audio, a visual kind of learning with it, and then you amalgamate it with the technical side, as well. So it brings those two together, and then you start to then build from there. So I've been having my extra classes. We have one this afternoon. It's my second last with her, and I'm now doing figures and sums that I was not able to do 3 weeks ago, that I'm now doing, and mixed in with all of that. So it's so it's really amazing, for me. And I think it just represents another opportunity that whatever challenge might be, you think your way through it, and you put together a plan. You literally put together a plan to say, this is how that I'm going to close it. So I think, had I learned it this way at school, wow. From the table fables, then the technical side, and then you bring those together. You refer, because then you sometimes it's quicker to refer to the fable, then it's quicker to refer to what the technical way of drawing out the multiplication table is. So I think both are complementary.
Yes, that's fantastic, because that's what I was kind of trying to say too, is when we were just learning by rote learning behind our chair, saying over and over a times table, which was beneficial because that's how I learned my times tables. It didn't really matter how you learned it. You just needed to know those numbers, because you don't have time to do 8 8 groups of 6 dots and then count them, you know, which is what you'd have
Yes,
to do
exactly.
if you couldn't
Yes.
recall the number. So
Yes.
yes, so that's really awesome. And this Noel Gray, so she's
Yeah.
a tutor. She teaches you directly, or does she run a
Yeah,
school?
so in fact, she's a teacher at Kailami Prep School in my area here,
Okay, in South
and
Africa.
yeah, in South Africa. So you know, I reached out to her. We had coffee first. You know, she was
Fantastic.
telling me her story, also very similar to mine. You know, the
Mhm,
difficulties, or you know, and that self-doubt you have, that you
mhm.
know, it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, you're so smart, you're doing that, but then you're actually like, no, I'm
Like,
not
just don't
really,
ask me
because
my
I
times
can't
tables.
really. Yeah.
Yeah.
um so
It's
I
hilarious
think
because I
with
was,
her also being dyslexic,
yeah.
just brought it home even more. So
Sure.
the way she teaches
Mm, sure.
is
Because
absolutely incredible.
especially with, I think, people with this dyscalculia struggle a lot with verbal problems, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have
Mm-hmm.
dyslexia as well, and you know, they think probably about 50% of people with dyslexia also have some level of dyscalculia, so there must be some
Mm,
kind of neural link with that. But you
mm,
know, so the verbal problems are really difficult for people with dyslexia and dyscalculia. So that's fantastic.
mm.
You know, it's really great because obviously Noel Gray, she obviously has dyscalculia too as dyslexia.
She does.
Yes,
She
yes.
does.
And
Yes.
that is so wonderful to know because I've been speaking to so many more adults now. It's really kind of going off. I think I found, because people are really quite shy or quite nervous to talk about it, or I don't know what it is, because you know, I'm just
Mm,
here, like, you know how we
mm.
had our first chat. It's literally like I'm straight at you. Let's talk about this. Let's just grab a cuppa, let's just have the
Yeah.
conversation, which I think is such an important step, you know, because you
Yeah.
have the conversation, you hear yourself talking about it out loud. You know, I
Yeah.
could give you a few pointers and a few starters, and then you can get motivated. Like you said, Table Fables was kind of your first step to go, oh, okay, wow, there's a way I can learn my tables. That means that
Yes.
I can learn anything, really. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
really
Yes.
fantastic. And
The
it's
sky is the
you were
absolute limit.
talking about quantitative analysis, was it?
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
was speaking to a woman just yesterday, and she's a doctor of psychology, and
Uh-huh.
she was saying her quantitative and analysis was so hard. She was good at the
Mm.
qualitative
Yeah.
analysis, but not the
Yes. Yes.
quantitative.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was a real struggle for
Yes.
her. And I don't
Yes.
think she passed. I don't think she got it, but she's still doing
Yes.
really great.
Yes.
But
Yes.
she's just taking the first steps too to discovering, you know, or just to being the discovery first, because she never even knew it
Yeah.
existed, and then the kind of
Yeah.
acceptance, I think, is great. And what I
Yes.
think really
Yes.
comes across with your story more than anything is that I feel like every step of the way in your education, when you were honest with how you were going, and when you
Mhm.
verbalized it and asked for help, you really received
Mm.
it. And I think it was
Yes.
taken well and understood and not held
Yeah.
against you in any way. And
Yeah.
even now in
Yeah.
your later career,
Yeah.
or the beginning of your
Yeah.
later career, people are being
Yeah.
supportive and they're being
Yes.
helpful and they're giving you
Yes.
extra help, or wherever you need it, they're saying, fine, this isn't a
Yes.
problem. And
Absolutely.
I think that is such an important message to people
Yeah.
who have learning differences, because so many people are too scared to even say they have it. And
Yes.
they
Yes.
won't
Yes.
step up and say, well, you know what, actually, I struggle with this, because you have
Yes.
to stand behind what people love about you, why you have the job, what you're good at, why you're there,
Yes.
how you've gotten to where
Yes.
you are, because that counts for a lot. And then,
Yes.
so this lady I was talking to yesterday, she, you know, she said to me, yeah, you know, I'd like to be able to speak out and say that this is what I have. And I said, you know, well, do your children know? And she goes, that's
Mm.
hilarious, because I only just said to my daughter yesterday, you know what? I think I might have an issue with maths. And I think it's
Yeah,
dyscalculia, and her daughter just can't, 10-year-old daughter
I
just
get
kind
it.
of rolled her eyeballs and said, yeah, you think, mum? And I
Yeah,
said, and that's
I
the
get
point.
it.
Everybody who knows you will know that you obviously
Yeah,
struggle with
yeah,
numbers or something, as
yeah,
we know that the next person might struggle with something else completely. Like they might
yes,
struggle with being able to connect with people easily, or
yes,
they might struggle with,
yes,
you know, and it's kind of like,
yes, yes,
you know, we talk about mental illness being the invisible illness, right? Whereas I think
yes,
learning difference is also invisible, but it's sort of
yes,
like no one turns up in a wheelchair and pretends that they can
yes,
walk, you know? And so
yes,
it's kind of
yes,
like,
that's powerful.
yeah, so it's
Yes,
kind of like turning up at
yes,
your job and you can't, you know, you
yes,
can't actually climb the stairs, but you're pretending that you're not in a wheelchair,
sure,
you know, whereas everyone's
sure,
just kind of going, you're in a wheelchair.
sure,
You know
sure,
what I mean?
sure.
And
I
then,
completely hear you.
yeah, and also when I suggest to people that number one, the first step is you must find it. Well, do some work with me if you must, or do some work with your therapist. Tell them what your issue is, that
Yeah,
you can't admit that you need help
yes,
in this area. You can't say
yes,
out loud, well, I have
yes,
dyscalculia or I have dyslexia, when it's absolutely the
yes,
only thing that can help you.
yes,
And if you don't
yes,
say it, and oh no, sorry, if you do say it and you get rejected on some level in the
yeah,
area you're in, then you're in the wrong place. You know, you've got the skills
absolutely,
and the talent to
absolutely.
get to where you are already. You will find a place that is willing to bend a little bit, or just, you know what, I even find, I believe anyway, that it's
Yes,
going to make them like you more because you're
yes,
admitting a weakness.
yes,
And I think
yes,
people who admit their weaknesses are
yes,
make everybody feel like they can do the same thing, because we all have a weakness. So, you know,
yes,
I think
yeah,
that's your standout for me, Pangisa, is that you, all the way along the line, from when you were a little kid in school all the way through
yeah,
secondary, you just stood right up and said, look, this isn't making sense to me. I don't understand what's going on here. We need to look into this. And that is, you know, that is brilliant. That
sure,
is really good, because
yeah,
that's what's got you where you are. So it's got you where you are.
sure.
And I
You
commend you.
know, thank you. I thank you so much for that. You know, I'm even getting goosebumps, a little emotional hearing that, because you're right. I think when you own yourself, when you truly own everything, flaws and
Warts and all.
excellence,
Mm-hmm.
warts and all, when you are able to see the power in vulnerability, I think
That's it.
when you actually understand the power that's in vulnerability, that by voicing out that difficulty you might have,
Mm-hmm.
how then it's you get that ownership. I too had those anxieties before. I was like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, because then, then that image of people thinking, I'm smart and I'm capable, I'm doing that, will be compromised. But far from it.
Mm-hmm.
I approached one of my colleagues in the finance management function as part of this, and explains to her, my difficulty, and she basically jumped out of her seat to help.
Yes,
It's
yes.
and you know that thinking in your mind that, oh my goodness, this is going to be you're going to be received in a certain way, but you build these things up in your head, and you're
In your own
absolutely
head.
right. I think
Yes.
my journey as well of owning who Phangisa is and
Yes.
owning all of that has
Yes.
had a direct contribution to that, because it's been a
Yes.
journey. I think the past
Oh,
couple of years, especially,
sure.
being in therapy as well,
Mm,
being looking after that mental health as well,
yes.
has helped with that. It has
Yes.
helped me to be able to, as I say, lift up my hand and say, look, I cannot tell heads from tails for this. Can you explain it to
Yes.
me in that
Yes.
different way? I'm dyslexic, and you own it, and
Yes.
you actually once you actually understand what dyslexia is, and you understand yourself, you actually start to see certain competitive advantages in that.
Oh,
You start to
100%.
see a way of thinking and a way of the creativity
And
that
you
has
start to
helped to
pick
get
up
me
on
to
the
where I am.
positive of having the brain that you have. Exactly, because you
Exactly.
are wired a little bit differently, but that means a lot of good things too. A lot of good things
It
too.
also
As
means a
long as
lot
we're
of good
willing
things.
to, yeah, as long as we're willing to address the things that we struggle with. And you know what? What would happen with all
Absolutely.
of us if we all did that? Because it only
Sure.
gives you the ability to then build on the things that you're good at, you know? When you admit the things that you're not good at, it gives you literally the ability to be better at the things that you're great at, you know? And
Wow.
get
Absolutely.
pretty good at the things that you were really rubbish at, you know? And I think
Yes.
accepting that
Yes.
you might never be a maths genius, but that's
Yes.
only in the context of how we see maths today. Because I'm always
Yes.
quite fascinated to see what is going to happen. I think I said this last time. Like, what's going to
Yeah.
happen when we start to teach kids with dyscalculia their foundations and they really learn them,
Yeah.
you know? And then how are they going to see maths?
Yeah.
What are they going to do with it?
Yeah.
You know, rather than
Sure.
just teaching the neurotypical
Sure.
brain everything they need to lead, we need to teach every brain what they need to
Yes.
know, you know?
Yes.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. I
brilliant.
think what could happen for the world is incalculable. It's
Incalculable.
and if you really get it at that early stage,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I think also we are in the right direction. There's so much more conversation I see around this, even with
Yes.
LinkedIn. There's now
Yes.
dyslexic thinking as part of your skills. So I think
Yes.
we are slowly going in that right direction.
I think it'll be only a matter of time until they kind of say, well, we need at least 4 dyslexic or dyscalculic people on the board.
Yes.
You know, because they are a certain type of thinker, you know, because we'll need our
Yes.
empath, we'll need
Yes.
our, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, no, so that is so brilliant, Phangisa. And so what's the next steps for you then?
So the next steps for me is to finish my tutoring with Noel.
Yes.
We'll be learning percentages today, so I'm quite looking forward to that. And then it will be then to complete my executive psychometric. As part of
The
then
testing for the
this
next, yep,
Yes, yes, this process, and
evaluation.
I've also then just been sort of contemplating, even for my studies. You know, I think I had limited myself to saying maybe there are certain universities I won't apply to because of these entrance tests that have, and because there's so much maths in it. But because now that's no longer a barrier
Yes.
that I had, it's now opened up that possibility
You can
to
go for the
some
university
of
of
the
your dreams.
overseas institutions. Exactly.
Yes. See you at
So
Oxford.
yeah, that's where. Yeah, exactly. In fact, that
Yes.
was one of the ones I had in mind. I
Mhm.
was looking also at their website and what the facilities they have to support dyslexic students.
Mhm.
You know, which follows that dyslexic can get into
Dyscalculic.
Oxford, can
Yes.
get
Yes.
into Cambridge and and whatnot.
Great.
So
Great.
it's so for me, that's I'm really wanting to dream big in terms of what the possibilities are. I think with this foundation, I want to also push a bit more. I want to start doing even more advanced maths and actually see how far
Why
I
not?
can
See how far you can
push
go.
this.
Well, for
I just
sure.
like to
As soon as you can
get
understand
into
it.
it.
Yes, because maths is
Yeah.
maths, right? It's never going to really change. But as soon as you can understand what you're looking at, then that's it.
Yes.
You get it. You know,
Yes.
and as
Yes.
soon as you can
Yes.
find a way to remember what that symbol means, as soon as you can remember to
Yes.
find a way how to memorize like your basic foundations, like you were saying,
Yes.
then you can really nothing's
Yes.
going to stand in your way. Which is why I'm super keen to start a database or some kind of something going on where
Uh-huh.
people have found ways around, or their way of thinking, or how they think about something, how they solve it with their dyscalculic brain. Just like Becky, who created Table Fables, she thought of stories to solve the problem of learning the times tables. You know, it would be so brilliant if we had some kind of database or space where people could just say, this is how I work out, you know, when you're doing quantitative analysis, when you you know, when you worked out how to see it so that it made sense to you. If when you can share that, you know, like I'd really love to turn even my Facebook page into, send me a little video of how you're thinking, how you thought around this problem, how you worked this out, because that could be what, you know, there might be people out there who just, they can't get past the idea that they can't do it, so they won't even try. But, you know, just the little video of somebody saying, well, this is how I worked it out. You know, it's going to be like creating the wheel all over again, you know, because for them it will make sense, you know. So yeah, so that's something that I want to do.
And you know, Mani, you cannot underestimate the profoundness of the work that you're doing, because by having these platforms that were not available previously, you unlock that potential. You know, that thing where exactly what you were saying, that I'm not even going to try it because I know for sure I'm not going to. But as soon as you see just one, it's just a, you know, it's just a spark, you know, in the darkness, and you grab onto that and you go with it. So I would absolutely support that, because even as I was saying with Noel, she teaches me, this is how I learned it as a dyslexic, and then this is how I'm teaching you as a dyslexic. So you actually then get to understand. So like the MIT professor I was talking about as well, she was describing, you know, the most advanced kind of thing, but I got it at, you know, at a level, like I could, you know, I could see what she's talking, you know, about. So if those kind of resources are available in the same way you can sort of quickly Google how to work out a percentage, you know, and then you get this video kind of thing. It would be nice to also, as a dyslexic, how, you know, how do I get percentages as a dyslexic, and then you have these resources available. And I think it's starting somewhere. And as I say, if you put your mind to it and you really start to look, you know, you Google, you LinkedIn, you everything, just trying, because you know, just by sheer numbers, you can't be the only one. So maybe there's someone out there who's put it out there, and
which is an
that's
absolute
also part of
positive
my
about
future
technology.
thinking as well. Exactly. How do we put these messages out? How do we help
I think
that next one?
Maybe TikTok might be quite a good one for that, actually, because TikTok, people can make their own video, tag it with Dyscalculia solution or whatever, you know, just start that little ball rolling somewhere where people can just record themselves, you know. I don't know who really.
I hear you. Yes.
It's a really quick way, tag it and just go, this is the Dyscalculia solution. So if you're just looking, and you know, kids now are just like, not maybe so much kids that we're aiming at, but people who are interested to find out.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is so brilliant, Phangisa. I'd love all of that. It is so inspirational. I think you're such an inspiration for other people who are growing up with learning differences, and you know, and like I said, it's just wonderful how good you are at just putting it out there and asking for the help that you need all the way along. And it's so heartwarming to know that you got the help when you asked for it too. And I have a feeling that that would be the case for most people who do ask. I don't think you'll get rejected very often. And that really also helps me believe in the work I'm doing, because I tell people, take the risk, take the leap, do it, because you need to. There's no other way to let go of your anxiety. And you're a wonderful example of that, because you've done it, and you've done it all the way along. So a million thanks for that. A million thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to just finish off with? Any final words?
For me, For me, it's just to say, I feel a new level has been unlocked for me. I feel there's a new, absolutely bright horizon that has been unlocked through this process of vulnerability, process of owning who I am, process of asking for help, process of challenging yourself, especially when you feel the most uncomfortable about something. You ask yourself why, and you sort of get stuck into it. Uh, and really, it's just to say, it sounds so cliche when you hear it, when people always say, yeah, but you can get through it, you can. And especially speaking with fellow dyslexics and fellow dyscalculia
Yeah.
colleagues, and it's just, if you actually just make the plan, you just break everything down, you have your ego out of it, you have your everything. If it means that you are learning from a cartoon and you are 33 years old, that's exactly what you need to do. It's about how you're going to apply yourself. It's about what steps are you going to take to get through. There are examples all around us if we take the time to find them and to listen to their stories as well, and latch on to those individuals that are out there to help, like yourself, Mani, like the Noels of the world, the Richard Bransons of the world that have spoken about this. It's so really, at the end of the day, it's yourself, and it's really how much you believe in yourself to get through that, and you will, if you figure out some way. There's just some way that you figure it out. It comes to you. It
And
comes to
that's
you.
the beauty of, I think, as well, having a brain a bit more like yours. You're creative thinkers. That's one of the gifts, I believe, anyway, of having a dyscalculic or a dyslexic brain. You're the creatives, so you will create your way out of it. And that is wonderful, and that is a gift. And you've done that all the way along, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, okay, well, that's wonderful, Phangisa. I'd like to thank you for coming along and speaking to me today. And
thank you so much.
it's so wonderful watching your journey and hearing how you're going. And I'd really love to revisit again in the not too distant future and see how it's all coming along. Awesome.
I'd be very happy to. Very happy to. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Was very nice to speak. Yes, so great to speak to as well. So that was it was really nice.
As are you. So this will help so many people too. I hope so. We'll put it out there, see what happens, and as long as we even help one person, that's all that matters, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and let's keep in touch. Yeah.
Absolutely, we will.
All right.
Take care.
Okay. Have a wonderful day. See
You
you,
too.
Phangisa. Bye.
Bye.